Fairy lights float above the rooftop as Nairobi glows under a soft orange sky. Laughter is easy, glasses clink, the DJ hums a smooth amapiano track. Zuri Mboya stands near the edge, dress catching the wind, smiling the calm smile she wears when she is studying a room. Emily, her fiancé's cousin, leans in with a loud laugh that asks for an audience. Low body count, she says, like a punchline, and the nearest table tilts toward the sound. A few phones lift. Someone whispers, someone snorts, someone repeats it like a headline. Zuri does not flinch. She holds her champagne and lets the word float and die in the air. The sunset slides lower, painting the city in gold, and the moment stretches. Tun shifts beside her, eyes stuck between the woman he loves and the family he fears. Emily looks pleased, rolling the insult on her tongue again, tossing it to Lagos friends who are hungry for mess. Heat rises across the rooftop, but Zuri stays still. She tilts her chin, not in shame, not in defense, just in quiet control. She glances at the skyline, at the thin line where light meets night, and then back at the crowd now pretending to be casual while their cameras keep recording. Her silence is louder than the music. It makes people hear themselves. It makes the ugly joke sound small. A breeze brushes past, carrying the scent of jasmine and grilled tilapia, and the room realizes the target has not broken. The tension is set. Emily sees the room watching and decides to perform, tossing her hair and rolling her eyes like she is hosting a comedy show. Boring, she says, slow and sweet like syrup. Unseasoned. A plain plate. The Lagos boys at the back slap the table and howl because she is feeding them what they came for, easy laughter and a little cruelty. She swirls her drink and adds, perfect for a quiet life, maybe not for a real one, and her friends lean in as if they want more. Tunde Desina stands beside Zuri and goes very still, face tight, shoulders locked, eyes flicking from Zuri to Emily as if the air might split. His smile dies and his glass lowers. He looks like a man at two doors, both heavy. Zuri does not blink. She watches the noise roll across the rooftop like a quick storm, then she sets her glass down and lifts one hand. No rush, no fuss. She touches the MC's elbow and speaks so softly people have to lean forward to catch it. May I borrow the mic? The MC hesitates for half a second, caught between the messy drama and the woman who is not sweating. Then he nods and places the mic in her hand. The crowd shifts as if a magnet moved. Laughter stumbles and stops. Phones tilt in her direction. The DJ senses it too and fades the music low, the beat now a soft pulse under the city lights. Emily tries to toss another line, but it lands flat. Zuri thanks the MC, her voice steady like a bell, and she smiles at the guests, at the skyline, at the aunties and uncles and the influencers pretending to sip. She does not defend herself, not yet. She simply takes the center without pushing anyone aside. Tunde exhales in a quick breath, like a trapped man who found air. The Lagos boys look at each other, unsure whether to laugh or listen. In that small pause, power moves. It is visible in the quiet that spreads across the tables, in the way chairs stop scraping, in the way every camera lifts a little higher. Emily's grin tightens. She did not plan for silence. She planned for noise and messy replies. Zuri stands under the lights, calm as a lighthouse, and touches the mic with her fingers as if checking the temperature of the room. Good evening, she says, warm and clear, and every mouth closes. No shout. No clap back. Just presence, and the sense that the night is about to change direction. The rooftop belongs to her now, and everyone can feel it. Zuri lifts the mic and for a moment she simply breathes, as if she is carrying a small, steady fire inside her chest. Then she begins in a low voice that makes people lean forward. She says she grew up in Maputo, a city of salt wind and loud color, where her mother taught her to walk with her head high and to say no clearly. She remembers a schoolyard full of girls who promised each other things they could not keep, and an aunt who said marriage would teach her how to be small. She speaks of small lessons and quiet refusals that piled up until she learned to keep herself whole. Her words are plain and direct. She tells them about a day in Mombasa when a man tried to cross her boundary. He thought he could call her fear a joke. He thought he could make her question her own judgment. He did not expect her to run, to push, to scream until someone came. She says the memory is sharp, but it does not make her bitter. It taught her what consent means. It taught her to respect her own body and to ask others to respect it too. As she tells this, the rooftop slows. Laughter stumbles into silence. Phones that were raised to catch a punchline find themselves lowered. Faces that were eager to mock look blank and suddenly ashamed. The people who were enjoying a show now feel like witnesses to something serious. Zuri talks about pressure. She names it plain. She says pressure from lovers, from family, from nights that whisper you must change to fit a role. She says she chose differently. She chose shelter work over secrets. She chose schools over gossip. She chose to build places where girls could be safe, safe enough to say no and mean it. Her voice never rises into anger. It stays steady and clear, like a light you can follow. She does not ask for pity. She shows proof of purpose. She tells them that numbers do not make a person whole. Experiences do not measure a soul. She tells them her worth was never a number and will never be a rumor. Around the table some people wipe their eyes. A man who was laughing earlier looks at his hands as if they belong to someone else. Tun stands very still, and his jaw works with a choice. Zuri's words fold into the air like a net that catches the room. What was teasing becomes ugly. What looked like a joke becomes an injury. And in that change the crowd shifts. People begin to see Amelie not as brave but as cruel. They begin to understand that a laugh can be a weapon. Zuri finishes with a simple sentence that lands like a bell. She thanks them for listening and says she hopes they will remember that respect is not a favor. It is a right. The rooftop holds its breath and then, slowly, the murmurs turn into a different sound. It is softer, and it carries the weight of someone choosing to be on the right side of a story. Zuri holds the mic steady and lets a small smile cross her face before she turns toward the investors' table. The mood is thin with curiosity now, not the loud kind that wants a joke. She says, plainly, that what people are laughing at has a name and a purpose, and then she names it. She is the founder and director of Safina Foundation, she says, and it is a group that works across Africa to teach consent and keep girls safe. She speaks the cities one by one, simple and clear. Enugu. Gaborone. Kigali. Each name lands like a little stone in water. At the word Enugu a man near the head of the investors' table lifts his eyebrows. At Gaborone, a woman who had been taking notes sets her pen down and looks up. Zuri asks the tech person to play a short reel. The screen beside the table lights up and a 1-minute video begins. It is not glossy. It shows small, urgent things that feel true. A girl wiping tears as she accepts a school uniform. A teacher clapping as the same girl stands at a desk for the first time. A shelter door opening to sunlight. A row of girls in caps and gowns, shaking hands with volunteers. The clip moves fast, and it moves hearts faster. Influencers who were ready to clip the insult now lower their phones as if the images are more important than the sound. The chatter that had been like a tide pulls back. People who had been leaning forward for drama sit back and watch. You can see them counting the cost of their smile. The investors at the head table do not look like they are judging Zuri anymore. They look like they are listening to proof. Zuri points out that Safina is small but working, that it shelters girls who have been threatened or sold, that it keeps girls in school by paying fees and by giving counseling that heals shame. She explains this in very simple words. She does not brag about numbers. She shows faces. The faces tell a story no joke can cover. Someone coughs. A man who had laughed earlier rubs his eyes. A few people whisper about taking meetings after the event. A table of Lagos friends grow quiet and glance at Amelie, whose smile is thinning. Zuri says the work is not cheap. She says good things need partners who will stand with respect and not with gossip. The camera on a tall tripod zooms in on the investors' faces, and their expressions change from bored to attentive. Zuri names a few local partners who already help Safina. She thanks volunteers and shelter staff by name. Her voice is soft and honest. It is not a speech that asks for pity. It is a presentation that asks for trust. By the time the reel ends and the lights come back to the warm rooftop glow, the energy in the room has shifted again. People who have been ready to laugh now feel a little guilty. People who have been waiting for the next joke now think about promises and pledges. Zuri lowers the mic and the silence that follows is full. It is the kind of silence that can become action. Zuri lets the silence hang for a second and then leans in like someone telling a true, quiet secret. She says the name of the venue, Skyline Kibo, and the letters seem to touch the glass and the city at once. People turn as if a cue was called. Zuri tells them, simply, that Skyline Kibo is not just a rented space tonight. It sits under a holding company she co-owns. She does not smile like she is winning. She says it like she is closing a loop. At first a few heads tilt as if to check a note. Then she says the important part. This rooftop has an entry policy that is clear and public. Every guest agreed to a zero-tolerance code on harassment when they signed in. Phones, bags, and behavior were part of that rule. She waits a beat and then says calmly that live streaming abuse is a violation of that code. The room shifts. Amelie freezes for the first time as people watch her face change color. Zuri asks security to do what the code allows. Security moves, gentle and official. They step toward Amelie and take her phone with calm hands. There is no screaming, just a polite, slow motion that makes the whole event feel like a recorded play. The crowd hushes into a new kind of attention. Phones that had been recording the insult are now turned down or held by staff. Influencers glance at each other with guilty looks. The power in the room tilts on a small, obvious hinge. Amelie reaches out for her device and her laugh falls out of her mouth like a thin sound that used to be mean but now sounds small. She asks why, but the code is clear and the staff show the signed agreement. Tund rises in the middle of this, not to defend the joke but to watch his cousin being treated like any guest who breaks the rule. He looks uncertain at first and then steadier as he reads the papers the manager shows him. Whispers spread, but they are softer and different. People who laughed are suddenly measuring the cost of that laughter. A few older relatives shake their heads. Some young men who have been loud now fold their arms and watch. Zuri keeps the mic and speaks in short, plain sentences about rules and care. She says she will not allow the safety of her shelters or the respect of her team to be mocked on a roof she helps own. She points out that actions matter as much as words. The staff return Amelie her phone only after explaining the policy and asking her to delete the live stream. Cameras blink out. The crowd's mood shifts from party to consequence. Outside on social feeds the first clips are already tagged. People who had been hungry for gossip now watch a different story unfold. The balance of power has changed because a rule, quietly enforced, made the disrespect visible as a breach. The rooftop now hums with a new respect that is barely loud but very clear. Zuri holds the mic and speaks slowly so everyone can follow. She says something that makes the room sit up. Adesina Tech has already agreed to partner with Safina. It is not a rumor. It is a signed deal. They will fund 100 new shelters across East and West Africa, she says, and she names the number like it is a promise, clear and plain. The crowd moves as if a new wind has picked up. Then she says the part that makes heads turn. The funding comes with a condition. The Adesina family brand will only go forward if the family that wears the name keeps a strict zero tolerance for sexual shaming. That means what people say and do at family events matters to the partnership. It means jokes that hurt could stop the money. The investor's table goes quiet. The board chair shifts in his seat and then nods slowly as if confirming what he already knew. Somewhere at the table a pen is put down and a phone screen is checked. Tun's face changes like a page turning. The small smile he once tried to wear falls away. He looks at his mother, then at Amelie, then back at Zuri, and in his eyes you can see a man understanding cost and consequence at the same time. He reads the clause like a new rule in his life. The Lagos friends who had laughed now look at him with a new question. The aunties whisper to each other. A young investor who had been ready to leave a tip for the DJ now leans in. Zuri keeps speaking, but her words are softer. She explains that the shelters need steady funding to hire counselors, pay teachers, and open doors for girls who have been threatened. She says the money will change lives, and then she names the price of that change. Respect must be more than a word. It must be a condition. She does not point fingers. She states fact. The manager from Adesina Tech, sitting near the head table, lifts his hand and shows a printed addendum with a firm stamp. The room feels the weight of paper in a way laughter never had. Tun swallows. He looks at Amelie and sees the real risk of her smile. He looks at his cousins and the men who had joked, and he sees future headlines, deals that could shrink or vanish. For the first time tonight the family argument is not private. It affects a promise to girls in sleeping mats and school uniforms across countries. People begin to murmur not with amusement but with calculation. Some shift uncomfortably in their chairs. A few guests who had been filming now lower their devices, as if the thing worth recording has changed. Zuri folds the mic into her hand and says plainly that she wants one thing from the family tonight, a choice. Stand with respect and help build those shelters, or keep laughing and risk the deal. The rooftop holds its breath and then leans toward action. Amelie laughs like she has won, a short sharp sound that cuts the air, and for a moment she thinks the night has stayed the same. Then Zuri lifts her hand and says she has one last thing to share. The room leans in because the mood now smells of something serious. Zuri asks for the projector and a quiet starts to fall, the kind that strips away small talk. On the screen appear phone screenshots, clear and blunt. They are from a group chat with a name that makes some people shift in their seats. The messages show plans, not jokes. There are texts saying how to push a cousin into a bad story. There are voice notes that sound practiced, and a photo with a caption that looks like a threat. The timestamps are recent. The messages are directed by a small set of accounts, and one of the accounts is Amelie's. The chat shows her asking for lies to be spread and for secrets to be used as leverage. She wrote when to post, who to tag, and how to make a cousin look bad so the family would turn. The projector keeps showing screenshot after screenshot so there is no quick way to pretend it is fake. Phones record the screen instead of the woman who caused this. The laughter that Amelie tried to sell evaporates into a pile of shocked faces. People who had been giggling now cover their mouths. Influencers who had wanted clips to go viral watch the receipts instead. A cousin in the corner makes a small sound like someone folding a paper heart. Tun's mother stands up as if the floor moved. Her voice trembles when she says the first thing that sounds like an adult taking responsibility. She apologizes aloud, not in a private whisper but in the open where everyone hears. She says she did not know. She says she is ashamed. Her words are simple and cut through the nerves in the room. Amelie's smile drops and then cracks. She reaches for an explanation but the screenshots keep playing like a slow reveal. Guests murmur that this is worse than gossip. This looks like planning. Someone says the word blackmail under their breath and the sound spreads. Tund watches his cousin and his mother and the screen, and his face gathers all the parts of a man who has to choose what matters most. You can see his breath hitch as he reads the messages. The investor at the head table leans forward, eyes sharp, and the chair of the board folds his hands. People begin to talk in small groups, trading looks that already make decisions. The family reputation feels thin and fragile, like glass on a table. A few relatives move to check phones, to compare messages, to find more proof. The rooftop fills with the electric hum of consequences. Amelie sits quieter and smaller than she ever has on a stage. The projector keeps throwing up the proof until there is no room left for the old story. The night tilts again, and this time it is toward truth and a quiet, growing demand that wrongs be owned and fixed. Zuri turns and holds out the mic to Tund like she is giving him a choice wrapped in a small, bright package. He takes it with hands that tremble a little, and for the first time he speaks not as a son or a cousin but as a man who knows what his name can do. He says he is sorry. He says he was wrong to let jokes go too far. He names the shame and the hurt and then, in front of everyone, he signs the CSR addendum that ties the family brand to respect. The paper is simple. The stamp is real. Cameras tilt closer. Zuri watches him quietly and then places a steady hand on his arm. He asks forgiveness from her and from the room. His voice is small and honest. Some of the family members look stunned. Some look relieved. Zuri accepts his pledge with a single, calm sentence that looks like grace. She forgives him but she will not forgive the behavior that hurts others. She lays down a rule that evening and says it out loud so there is no mistake. From now on there is one standard. Respect, or no access. No access to her, no access to her work, and no access to the family brand that carries their name. The words land and a wave of understanding moves across the rooftop. Security gently escorts Amelie toward the exit. Her face is a mix of anger and shame. Phones capture every step. The crowd stands as if moved by the same impulse and then breaks into applause that is warm and full. The clip spreads quickly. By the time dessert is served, strangers online are watching the moment and sharing it with the tag #RespectIsLuxury. Messages come in with support for the shelters, for Zuri, for the change that began with one brave voice. Zuri raises her glass for a final toast. She smiles and says, simply, my worth was never a number. The city lights blink below and the rooftop holds that sentence for a long beat. Then people cheer, and for tonight the cheer is for someone who chose respect and made everyone else choose it too.